$50. Give him a dedication.
So it's 1950s. You see the label again on this?
That's classic. That's classic. The other things that usually do on the shop is all the way here. So I still need to control this in case I have to do anything else here.
All things maple.
All things maple. All things maple. All right. Tomas,
¿Qué pasó?
how are we doing?
We're doing really well. Life is good.
Life
Got
is
all our
good.
friends
All
here.
our
We're
friends
hanging
here.
out.
My pregnant wife just shaking her head, rolling her eyes at me.
Somebody got to keep us in line here, right?
Yeah,
Right?
seriously. Yes, absolutely. Well, we're back here in the Candelas Guitar Shop, the legendary and famed Candelas Guitar Shop. My good friend Tomas Delgado, I've known since I was a kid, since I was younger than his kid.
Yeah.
Tommy, is he like Tommy or like Tomas, or how do you like these days?
I let people choose, but typically now it's Tomas.
Oh, it's Tomas now.
Yeah.
Okay. So Tomas and Tomas. Well, we're back, guys, just to talk. It's been a while since I've done YouTube. So much has changed over the years. I'm here visiting family, friends, and I was like, well, Tomas has been so kind and gracious to let me record here before, let me play guitars. I said, well, it's been a long time since I've done a guitar collection video. It's been a long time. I've done these over the years. People seem to love them, and I'm like, well, what better place to do a guitar collection video than in the House of Guitars?
Yeah.
With my collection, because I actually have my Candelas guitar collection right here. This isn't mine, but this is mine. That's mine. That's mine.
That's yours.
Mine. These are yours.
Right now, this is mine, but
Right now, that's yours.
All right, here's it's yours again. It goes back to you.
Goes back. Visitation is over after a certain point.
Yeah, right.
Well, I wanted to get together to talk about just some general things. I mean, you guys have been doing a lot of interviews more recently than ever before with the GMC thing and the hair salon thing. You guys have been spreading knowledge and sharing some of your family's history on these guitars. I know the history. I've been coming here since I was 17. I bought my first guitar when it was 2003, 2004. I was a changuito. I was just a little kid.
Yeah.
And I bought my first mariachi guitar for like $1,200. Gave me a really good deal. Gave me a really good deal. Good luck finding that deal these days. You're not going to find that deal. No.
Well, they're deals for today, but that was the deal for.
That was the deal for 20 years ago.
Yeah, exactly.
Played that guitar all throughout my high school, college. Became a professional musician with that guitar, and I know who has it. I sold it to a student. He won't let me near it, so I have to settle with these other amazing beautiful guitar that you made for me a couple of years ago during COVID. And what a guitar! What a guitar that thing is. Like, I think it's just, I see it every day. I love it. I play it, but just listening to you play it, listening to Kenneth play it, it's like you don't ever get to hear it from the other side.
Yeah.
You know.
You've taken such good care of it, and it's just amazing to be able to play it again and see it in this condition. You know, just the way it left here. But I remember making this, and I literally was joking around, right, with everybody. Like, I hope he doesn't like it because I want to keep it. You know. And
I'll be honest, when you showed me the first drawing for it,
I remember.
I was at work, and I took me a second to look at it. I was like, what is he doing? Like, I don't think this is what we talked about. And then I looked at it again, and then I looked at it again, and I was like, that is really cool. It's really nice. And I remember I called you right back. I was like, yeah, I love that. And now I know you were probably like, damn.
Yeah, I was. That's exactly how I was. You know, I was trying to design something different for you because you love guitars. You study guitars, mariachi, classical, flamenco. You just, vihuelas, guitarrones, everything, all things guitars, right?
Yeah, I was a kid.
Yeah, and I know how you are, and I know, you know, what we do. We all go down that rabbit hole. Everybody here, we're all guitar fanatics, and so
It's not an addiction. It's not an addiction.
yeah, no, yeah.
It is
So
an addiction.
we won't admit it, but the to come out with something different, and for anybody that is looking into guitars, a lot of people admire the work that you do and the way you perform, and your approach to the instrument, your approach to the respect of the history of where they come from. I thought, I gotta do something different, and it took forever. I remember my wife, and I was like, She's like, yours not bad. I'm like, I can't. I'm trying to figure out and get inspired to come up with something different. That's why I like to travel. As you know, I'll go to local museums or local art shows. I'll go to Mexico, Spain, Italy, Paris, wherever, and I'll go to all these places and I try to find something that won't affect tone, but will, in your case, definitely something that I wanted to do that would be like a staple in the music world, in mariachi or classical. And when I came up with this, I just fell in love with it. And I knew it wasn't what we came up with. And I was like, I hope he doesn't like it. I was like, because then I want to keep it.
Yeah.
I'm going to keep it. And I was like, and I only built one. My elbows were kicking, they were hurting big time just to cut these by hand.
Some people will ask me, like, oh, is that like a machine that looks so perfect? I'm like, no, that's artistry. So you can, and even you can see tiny little spaces all around the circle. It's like that was hand done. And so people, when they really get up to and close to it, they look and they see they're like, wow, how do you do that? And I was like, well, you spend a lifetime mastering an art.
Yeah.
And that's how you get there.
Yeah, and years ago when I was restoring instruments, I had a man tell me, there's a beautiful thing about seeing the human side of a build. Because on a lot of guitars now, you lose the human side. They're so aesthetically perfect that it's hard to tell,
if there's a real artist there.
Yeah, where's the character? Where's that person? Where's Tomas in this guitar? And I've studied, other builders, classical, flamenco, or mariachi. Which mariachi, there wasn't any really guitar builders. It was just Morales, right?
Yeah.
So I would study Morales. I would study Friedrich and Ramirez and Fleta and Reyes and all these guitars, and you can see the human side of the build. And so, of course, I'm not gonna point it out, but there's the human side on this, and you can see it.
Yeah.
You can tell that it wasn't done with a computer.
Yeah.
You can tell where the old man's elbows were hurting and nowhere nervous. But I tried. I stuck with it, and I'm okay with some of the stuff because I wanted you to see that. And I sent you the photos of the work I was doing.
Yeah.
And
couldn't wait. I was like, oh, it's happening right now. We had been talking about a guitar like this for a decade. About a decade, because my big thing for a long time when I got out of college was buying and collecting.
Yeah.
That was a big part of it. And this is a part of my collection here. That one back there. I have more. I think over the years since I was in college, I've probably bought and sold maybe 30 or 40 instruments. Morales, Candelas, other Spanish guitars. Because you gotta learn, right? You go look at all the other Spanish builders and great builders. You go to shops. There used to be a lot more shops back in the day, and they used to have a lot more stock. You just sit there and play guitars. You play Wipe guitars. You play Ramirez guitars. You play Fleta guitars. You play all these guitars that people have, and back then prices were, the $8,000, $5,000, and they were available. Now they're not available. You can't find them. You might find them online, and people want $10,000, $15,000 for these guitars, and it's like, well, rightfully so. There's only less of those in the world. There's no more of them coming out, right? But you guys find yourselves in a very unique position where there's more coming out. Well, there's future more coming out, right? So real quickly, I know a lot of people that are probably watching this know about your family history, the 90 plus years of your great grandfather, your great uncle, your dad, you, and then now your son. But what kind of walk us through a little bit. We know your great uncle was kind of like the key driver of doing a lot of this business. Your grandfather was here teaching you how to build guitars, right?
Yeah, and I think we went through that on the last interview. It was from 1928 Torreon to Juarez to Tijuana, and then here in 1947.
Yeah. And
great uncle, grandpa. Then my dad got out of the army, and then he took over. Then my uncle passed away. Then it was my grandpa, my dad. And then my dad opened several stores, and then we closed everything in Mexico. Because my tío Candelas was running the shops in Mexico. And then my dad closed everything here, and we stayed in this shop. And then I came into the picture. and unfortunately my dad passed away, and then I took over. Then obviously when he passed away, then we had a bunch of family members that decided they were going to try to jump into the business, and I took care of that quick. I said, no, you guys got to go. That's it. I tried to make it happen, but it didn't work out. So.
Family can be difficult.
Yeah, people in general are difficult, but it is what it is. So I was like, no, we're going to, as I learned years ago, when two people ride a horse, only one can lead.
Yeah.
And so I stuck with the shop, and then my dad passed, and my grandpa passed away, but my grandpa got to meet Tomas, and he was a baby, and then obviously I continued on with the tradition of what I was taught, and people always would tell me like, well, you say you got a lifetime warranty. What's a lifetime warranty? I'm like, well, you're buying guitars from my grandpa, my uncle, and my dad, and I'm going to be here to warranty.
Yeah.
Well, now I'm in that position where it's like, where's the lifetime warranty? I'm like, well, when I'm gone, there you go. There's another 50 years at least of
guitar building.
Yeah, so I think that's sort of cool. I mean, it's still the same name, still the same pattern, still same everything, but it's also still the same blood, the same family,
It's very consistent, because when you look at, I have these two guitars here. This is one of those guitars, like you were just mentioning, in a different shop, right? But still, this is what, 1950s roughly era, right?
Yeah.
Old style, like, what is that?
Cirimo.
Yeah.
Cirimo, sides and back. El diapason it's cedar or light mahogany, and it's tinted. So it was a student model, but they decided to put a decorative triangle rosette, which is the rosette that I brought back took 15 years, but now that rosette I brought back.
You brought that back. I saw that a few years ago. You put some guitars out there for people that, maybe can't afford a full concert classical, but need a good instrument.
Well, and the idea was to build something where everybody's gonna love it, but they can't pick what they want. Because the problem is on the custom, every time you do a custom, it slows down what we do.
Oh yeah.
So the new models are now built a certain way, and you don't get to pick anything. You either buy that, or you order a custom and you pay a premium for it.
Yeah.
And but it gives you the old world look, the sound, everything.
Well, that's just the thing, is the consistency. Because when you look, and we could probably get into this about collecting and buying, it's the same kind of process. I can still see marks in here the same way you would make marks when you're cutting things, when you're shaving necks.
Well, if you look at the neck and the tail, la colita del brazo, and you see the angle of this and the way it shapes down.
Yeah.
This one's a little bit longer, but the tool that I use, I just posted a video of the guitars I'm building right now. It's the same tool that was used then.
Yeah.
And you can get that shape when you use that size chisel, right? These I'm thinning down now. Everything I'm doing now is a little different because I'm trying to add mass in certain areas and take it away in other areas. So things are a little different now. I don't want to add too much weight in certain areas, but when you start to look at it, and then obviously I was just showing you guys a photo from 1950 that we have up on the wall, and the headstock on that guitar, they're all sitting up in that photo. And
black and white pictures from a long
time. From the 50s, yeah. And so that's the exact same headstock. And so, it's sort of cool, right?
Yeah. I mean, that's what collecting gets into, right? People collect so many things, right? And so many people, I've met two types of collectors. There's the collector that will just buy everything and sort it out later. And then you'll have a person that will only buy what they recognize and love. And that's what I've always told people is, a lot of people like to buy things and think they're going to get an instant flip. Like, oh, I'm going to buy something here, sell it there, buy it there. Well, you need to buy what you know. You need to buy what you love. Because everything you buy, you have to be prepared to keep it forever. Because there's no guarantee that you're going to get what you want out of it unless you love that instrument. And that's been my model the whole maybe 15 years of collecting. I've had to learn some hard lessons. So I bought stuff that I didn't know what I was buying. I've bought things that I didn't really love, and they bit me. You gotta take some losses sometimes, but like this guitar, going from the 50s to the 70s, this is a whole different animal from there. Still very consistent, still says Candelas, but This, I know your son really likes this guitar.
Yeah.
This is like a 1A grand concert flamenco guitar that your dad built
Correct.
in the 1970,
Nine?
79.
79.
Yeah, made it, has an old label, the old familiar label that everybody who started playing Candelas Guitars, we all recognize that label. And you've changed your label over the years.
I've had to. We had some people in Tijuana in the 80s that were copying that my dad had to go back and deal with, and claiming they were Candelas. And then I've had when I started building more of the higher end concert guitars, I just felt that the label was too big. Again, like when we're talking about the heel and certain areas, I wanted to refine it and bring it down, scale it down a little bit.
Fine tune it.
Fine tune it, but then even in like the year 2000, I had some other people that were claiming they were Candelas and copied the label, copied this, and so, which is sad, but I unfortunately, that was another motivator to change the label, and we've changed our label over the years, and I have a collection of all of our labels, which eventually we're going to frame it and we'll put it up so people can see it and they can track it. But it's also important to say there's only one Candelas in the world, and it's right here.
Right here in LA.
Anybody else is copying or a wannabe. As simple as that.
You gotta get really, and we were having this conversation this morning, is if you want to go headhunting and guitar safari, you can do that, right? You can go out there and find legit, that's the majority of these guitars that I haven't bought from you, I found from people that just had them. You know, they were their dad's guitar, their grandfather's guitar, they've bought it somewhere else, and I look at it and I'm like, okay, yeah, that looks about right. Yeah, that's how that looks. That's joined. Yeah, that's right. Label. Yeah, the label has the right amount of age to it. Okay, yeah, how much? Okay, we'll do the deal. You know, it's like I'm like the Joe Bonamassa of like my Gachi guitars.
Yeah.
You know, like real quick and dirty, like 3 guitars in one deal. It's like, how did that happen?
Yeah.
It's like, well, you just gotta know what you're looking for, and that's one of the biggest things is collecting. For me, for new people, I get questions all the time about like, is this legit? Is that legit? What would be great advice for, say, someone in their 20s, maybe even their 30s, getting into buying guitars for their own personal collections versus people that really know what's out there? And because you send me out there, I'm going to get the guitar.
Yeah.
You know, I'm not even going to give anybody a shot. So this is kind of me trying to give people a shot. That's been a complaint for years. Because I'll show up with a guitar and like, dude, I was looking at it. Yeah, it's mine now. That's mine now. That's mine now. I'm like, why are you buying everything? And like, I have a little bit of disposable income and no authority figure to tell me to stop doing it. So I'm just going to keep doing it.
Yeah, you have a beautiful wife that supports what
yeah.
you do, and it's an investment.
And she knows my troubles. Remember, we were walking from breakfast, and she's like, "Oh, that multi guitar from 10 years ago." I'm like, she knows all my guitars and all my troubles, right?
Yeah. Well, and the thing is when you come here, like I look at all of these guitars, and what's cool is, as you know now, I have all the templates for every one of these guitars. Obviously, I made this one, made that one, and made that one, but I have the templates for all of these guitars. So when somebody says, I want a copy of that, I'm like, oh, I got it.
Yeah, you do that.
That's what makes Langer's restaurant the original one and only.
Yeah.
That's what makes Martin Guitar original one and only. Taylor, Fleta, Friedrich, Candelas. So I have all the templates for all of these guitars. And we have all the original photos. We have everything, even the inlays and things like that. So in some ways, like, Kenneth knows that I just got an order for a guitar, and this client looked up some old photos of my grandfather's guitars, and he's like, I want something like that. And I'm like, oh gosh. He's like, can you do it? I go, yeah, I have it right here.
I'll go pull a template.
I have it right here. Well, not only that, I have the rosette. I have
Yeah,
the
pieces.
marquetry pieces that we made. And so
I'm gonna need some of those, by the way, 'cause I have another find that's in Dallas still right now.
you told me, right?
Yeah, I bought one and everything is perfect. Rosewood, cedar, perfect. But the inlays, somehow they just,
They dry out.
They dry out and they fell out. And I'm like, I remember I sent you a picture. You're like, I was just looking at those. I have those. I'm like, oh my God, of course he has those.
Yeah. Tomas you just worked on a guitar for Nick, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
How much time did you spend on that?
Oh my gosh, months. Yeah, months. And obviously we want to repair everything, and it's not necessarily a repair. It has to be playable. It has to sound amazing, but it has to be restored. We were just talking about that as well.
History, right?
Exactly.
History.
We're going to preserve it as much as possible.
Because these guitars are going to be here long after everybody in this room is gone.
Right.
And it's empirical because this was from the 70s. That Brazilian rosewood over there was from the 70s. This is from the 50s. I think, well, maybe only a couple of people in this room might had a shot at being around when this was made.
Why are you looking at me? You second? Oh,
Late 50s, 60s.
You see why I drink?
Yeah, with good reason. Yes, absolutely.
If you're gonna collect, one of the things that's sort of unique about your situation is, even though you sold some guitars while you were learning, and there's some you definitely regret.
Oh God, I got pictures.
Yeah.
I'll include some pictures in this video of all the guitars that I regret selling. I'm just like, oh, I wish I had to pay for a wedding, had to pay for a tuition,
Yeah.
and had to pay for a ring. Now I got to pay for kids. It's like that's another fun.
But truthfully saying, like, I know that I part with guitars, and it takes everything I have to do it, and it hurts. But when they find a good home, I can tell that you're also, like, you get it. You're sharing. And so when you're dealing with other collectors, guys that are buying and selling, flipping one over the other, they have access to a certain clientele or a certain type of guitar. And then the problem I have with guys that are constantly flipping is that they want to set a standard for what works for them, not what is true in the market.
Interesting.
And I hear about that all the time on with these online guitar companies that sell guitars. Rodriguez isn't a master guitar builder from the 50s, and blah 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 blah. And this because because the man that runs that company is still traveling all over the world. He's he speaks Spanish and English, and he can still sell, and they don't want to promote him because he's getting all those guitars and they can't get them, so they don't want to promote him. Yeah, some of those guitars are phenomenal. They're beautiful guitars.
Especially the senior guitars that were made here in LA back in the 50s and 60s.
Well, no, he was building up until the 57 in Spain, and the local flamencos here convinced him to move over here, giving him the impression he was going to make a ton of money. So he moved over here, and his son, Manuel, was born here, Manuel Rodriguez.
Yeah.
He was born here. They started making guitars, and they didn't make it like they thought they were going to. So they sold and went back to Spain. And I'm knowing as a businessman what he thought. He was like, no, I'm going to make my money now. Well, now they make 15,000 guitars a year.
Yeah.
And they've made an absolute ton of money. But that doesn't mean that up until the 50s, late 50s, that his guitars weren't great. They were. I own 3 of them.
Yeah, I played those. I played some others around the country, finding them. Once I learned what they were, because that's the thing is, you can go to any guitar center, and most guys in mariachi in my world, they'll go to Guitar Center and buy what they can afford.
Sure.
And they'll justify sound over price because they kind of have to. I get that, but they'll look at Rodriguez guitars. Oh, that's a Guitar Center. I was like, hey, well, did you know that 50 years ago you could get a handmade guitar from the father it will compete with some of these best guitars in the world.
Well, and if you think about it, Guitar Center, when they sell stuff, if you go in there and they have a guitar and you're like, well, Candelas down the street has one similar, they're like, okay, cool. They're good with it, right?
Yeah.
But when you go to these internet guys, oh no, they don't know what they're doing. Oh, because that's the business that they're in. So they want to come into the market because they've been around 5, 10, 20 years and set the standard. And they want to be the authority on things.
The brokers.
They're brokers, and they're full of it. And they only say what works for them at that time, and they don't want to be the ones to set the rules. They're losing that luxury now.
But it's a big difference between brokering and selling.
And building.
And building, which is what he's learning too. We had this discussion this morning too, is like your son is definitely on the right path.
Yes.
Because he understands, like, yeah, I want to learn how to do the building. I want to be able to do the math, right? I don't want to just sit in front of the shop and not know how any of this works, right? But what's been your experience? I mean, we've all been initiated. Dad, me, everybody in this room has been initiated. So have you now. And so now you're a neophyte. You're newly initiated, getting into the game. It's like, how do you see things like just like this, these guitars versus what your dad builds versus what you repair? You see a lot of it on a day-to-day basis now. How does that look to you with clients and people collecting and learning and trying to figure it out?
Absolutely. I mean, with every guitar that comes in that was either made by my grandpa, my great-grandpa, my great-great-uncle, and even some of the early works that my dad was building, it's almost like I used to ask my pops, because I graduated college, I'm like, is there like a book that I can read to help me figure out this guitar making stuff? And my pops is like, no. Each one of these instruments is a textbook that comes in, and my dad shows me how to read through it, and look, this is how you do this is how you do this on this guitar, this is how this was braced, this is how Papa Pilo or Tio Candelas did this on this instrument. And every guitar is a unique case that I learned how to work on. And obviously throughout the years, my dad's works, they just evolved, as you've seen.
Oh yeah, that was, I think you were still going to college, or you just started freshman year, and I bought the latest mariachi guitar that I bought and sold to another guy. And he loves that one. He's made that guitar famous too in his travels, right? And I remember, I'll be really honest. I was nervous when we came here that weekend. It was my honeymoon.
I remember. I remember when you guys came. I was so excited. Yeah.
And you had just started making and remaking all those mariachi guitars in 2016, 2017. You're coming out with a lot of them.
Well, a lot for me was 4 to 6 at a time.
But that was more than I had seen in years.
Yeah.
Years, and I was nervous. I was really nervous because I had these guitars, right? I think I had brought this one and that one, just as comparison. And I was sitting in here, and you were getting the guitar, and I'm playing this one. I'm playing that Brazilian rosewood that your dad made. And I've played these for years. I've made my side living with these guitars, playing music. I'm like, God, what's he gonna bring? I know the concert ones, right? I know those. What's the? And I started playing the mariachi guitar, and I was like, wow. Like you hear of the law of diminishing marginal returns, right? So the further you go, the harder it is to get blood from a stone, right? And you did. You did. I started playing that guitar, and I was like, okay, there's no disrespect to your dad, your great uncle, your grandfather, but what you're doing is just that much better. Objectively and subjectively, that's that much better. But that little difference, it's a whole different world. It's a whole different world.
I have.
That's what I was hoping for, and then it was there.
Yeah.
And so I went on my honeymoon, and I was happy as hell.
Yeah,
You can tell, I was just playing that guitar the whole time we're in Napa Valley. What? We gotta go to the winery? No, we're gonna go to the winery.
Yeah.
I'm not hungry. She's just staring at me. Like, okay, I'll just go watch Friends. Fine.
Right. Yeah, no, it's constant studying and practicing and not really making mistakes now, but just trying different things and I honestly just looking at what God sends to you, through. I will say that one of the big contributions was when I started making certain guitars, trying to achieve a certain tone. I started to listen to what Kenneth liked, and I was like, I don't care if you're famous, you're not famous, none of that matters to me, because I know sound, but I've learned that if I have 3 top players in front of me and I separate them, this one says that he only likes this, and I go, well, so I don't like what he likes. They say it to me personally, and then I go to the next one, no, I don't like what either one of those guys like. They know what they like, right? But it's individual still. It's a unique preference. But overall, the tone, I started sampling it with Kenneth, and then Kenneth's like, I don't know, I like this, and I go, tell me what you like. And he started explaining to me. And then I started taking these guitars over to other well-known players. And they were picking the same guitars that Kenneth was picking. And I go,
So now you got some data.
well, I have my soundboard here with him. So I started, and I told him, I said, you got a gift. You have a gift. This You know, because it's hard for me to sit back and go, I made this and this sounds, I always think it sounds bad. I don't think it's good enough. Never is it good enough.
Yeah.
So I get that. And I'm not going to say, oh, this is great. So what does it sound like? So to have somebody here that I can bounce that off constantly. So then I started changing finishes, started changing braces. Literally, I was like, I'm going to move this thing 2 millimeters over. I'm going to add a millimeter here, 2 millimeters there. And when you add 2, 3, 4 millimeters to an instrument, it's like a mile.
Yeah, it's a very wide effect, right?
So you have to just go incrementally to make sure you don't end up in left field and you thought you were building a guitar, now you're building like a piece of furniture. And you're like, dang it, what happened? Where am I at now?
To a chair.
Yeah, a chair with strings, right? A door with strings, you know, that's what the electric guitars, you know, but, sorry guys, sorry. We'll get in trouble here. Yeah, I'm gonna get in trouble for that, but it's just a different tone. So, I will come in. Yeah, and so, that was the beginning of really refining and trying to stay at that 1%, but splitting hairs at that point to try to really get to that next level. So
Yeah.
that was the idea.
That's kind of a mark of a true master. Kind of a mark of a true master. And when I saw that at that time, I thought, okay, thank God. I was so happy. I was so nervous. I just didn't know what to expect. I had very high expectations, and then they were just all the way out there. But that was 8 years ago. So what are we doing today with these guitars? That guitar, since COVID has let up, I've seen you putting out so many more focused types of instruments and what you've been doing. What is kind of your focus now with this? I mean, this, I'm looking at it, and I'm like, yeah, I'll trade you for a weekend. How about that? Because this is really nice.
Yeah, right.
Like, how are you refining going forward and showing your son with the concert model guitars?
Well, now, since the 4 or 5 years, I got over that being 52 years old number with my dad's passing at 52. So I almost feel like I'm born again. Like okay, I'm gonna make it past 52. I've done it now, and that was a burden that was stuck with me. But then my son decides he's going to take over, wants to do this, so I've been able to. He's helped me with the beginning part of understanding machines, the bandsaw, maintaining the shop, and then helping with certain clients, and then immediately throw them into the restoration, the repairs. And as that started to build up, I started to notice having a little more energy physically, and now I just want to be more focused on this. So now, literally, we talk about splitting hairs. Now we're going to even another level where I have enough necks to build probably several hundred guitars of the same tree. I still have tops, I have sides, I have backs. So I was doing it before, but I kept the same tops, and I'm going to build 2 at a time and refine it even more, get it even closer. I always think of like Derek Jeter and all these guys that sometimes they go back to basics and hit off a tee to try to. Here's a guy that's, an all-star or whatever, but when you get to that level, you're just looking for any little bit of information to make you better.
Yeah.
And when you're young and you're starting out, you're a baseball player or whatever, you learn one thing and you get 10 times better. You learn another thing, you get 10 times better. But when you've been doing this for almost 40 years, you have to maintain all of that, and then the one little sliver of information
help you.
It can get you that, and that's what we're doing now. So the travels, we were in Italy just a couple months ago. Went to visit a luthier, violin builder. So I wanted Tomas to see how the studies that I've done and what I look at, and why it's so important to keep the shop the way we do things, because it works.
Yeah,
it works.
Yeah, that trying to get back. I was playing with Vihuela. I've been struggling with my own playing for like the last couple of years. COVID, I stopped playing, and I took your advice, I remember when we were first getting married, and you said, when you have kids, stop playing so much, right? Stop being the guy that's always away from home. Don't be that dude that doesn't watch your kids' birthdays, all those things. So when my son was born, I did exactly that. I used COVID as a great excuse. I'm like, no, I'm not playing. I want to stay home with my son. You know, he grew up. He's 3 years old now. You know, we have my daughter. She's a year old now. Now I got to get out of the house.
Need a break. Your wife's gonna start playing. She's gonna start gigging.
Now I need to get out of the house. So I started playing with a couple groups in Dallas Fort Worth, and immediately I noticed, like, I can't do this anymore. Like, this used to be so easy.
Correct.
And I cannot do this. So Candy just gave me some exercises, and my arm is sore, by the way. Thank you for that.
Well, it's funny because if you look at these Olympic athletes, and you see some of these athletes that have been to 3 Olympics.
Yeah.
Again, it goes right back to what I was saying. You have to stay in shape. I see luthiers that have stepped away from their work, and then they want to come back, and it's not easy.
No.
It's not easy, and so when I know I have an appointment for a guitar, or I know that I have to refret, or I know I'm going to be doing tops, bending sides. Literally, I have to know when I'm like tonight. I'm like, no, I'm not doing that tonight because I won't be able to function tomorrow. And you literally go through every day. Like, you got to make sure incremental. Like, okay, what am I doing tomorrow? What's going to affect me? What am I doing today? It's going to affect me tomorrow.
Yeah.
And athletes obviously have to think of that. And so musicians are athletes, you know. So sometimes the way that we sort of stray from being in shape also helps us a little bit. I don't know. It's a balance, right?
Yeah.
But you got to stick with it.
You got a little off kilter. You're like, I need to get back to where I was, 5-6 years ago.
Yeah, you want to go out and play, and you want to run a marathon when you haven't trained for 26 miles.
Yeah.
And you're like, oh, I've done 26 miles. I got the thing. All of a sudden, you're like, oh,
I've been doing this 30 years. Like, why is a basic sewing killing me? Why don't I have a tinkle in my arm? Oh, that's not good.
Right.
Yeah, that's really an eye-opening thing. You told me about it. I'm like, yeah, I'll get there. Now I'm there. I'm right there now with the kids and all that sort of stuff. So what? I gotta say, like, you look even younger now than you did a couple of years ago with all that stuff. It's like, well, I know how you're keeping it. But from you, how are you managing all that? Especially your son being here, I imagine, is a big help.
Absolutely.
Keeping you like rejuvenated and keeping you going, right? It's not all on you anymore. Because last time I talked to you, you were thinking about how you're going to sell this place.
Correct.
I got so much feedback off of that video of, is Tomas retiring? Is he quit? No, he can't go. We'll go to the shop and order a guitar, right? But then that was kind of becoming a feedback loop for you because you're getting more people coming, and then you get a backlog, and then COVID happens, right?
Yeah.
It's just a crazy turn of events, right?
Yeah, but it's a joke, but it isn't. But it's harder. If he wasn't here, I'd talk him up, but he's right next to me, so I gotta
You gotta come over more often.
Yeah, I gotta be tough on
I'm
him.
on your side.
My dad would make me take the bus if I didn't have a car, that kind of thing. So I'm really, I'm tough on him, but it's made a big difference, and it's cool. You got to just showed up a friend of ours, and he's known my journey recently as well. And everybody, like, it's made it's God sent. So yeah, the aging part is going to happen. I'm just blessed that I'm able to continue to do what I'm doing, diet, honestly.
Yeah, that's a big one.
I'm never shy from saying I like my tequila, I like my cigars. That's not going to stop.
Keeps us young.
It is what it
It's
is.
healthy.
But honestly, the diet is the main thing. I try not to eat. I try to eat healthy, and that helps. That really has made a big difference in my life.
That's a big thing for musicians too, especially working guys and girls out there.
Anybody, yeah.
If you don't keep your body in shape, having kids is a big one. I have friends who don't have kids yet, and they're telling me they want kids. My biggest thing is stay in shape or get in shape. There's nothing like having to carry your kid your bag, your stroller, your car seat, your wife right there. If you're not up for the thing physically, you're not up for that challenge. It's gonna hurt. It's gonna kill you. I remember the first trip that we took 2 years ago. I remember I started lifting weights again just so that I could do that trip. So I know I'm going to be carrying everything through the airport.
Yeah.
So I need to get back up to being able to lift a decent amount of weight.
Sure.
And that was a big motivator for me. You know?
Sure.
And then the diet thing is the next one. And keeping yourself healthy, really keeps you able to focus in on all the other things you want to do.
Yeah, super labor intensive what we do here, and it's and the diet has made a world of difference. So, but honestly, it can sound however anybody wants to take it. I don't care, but it's your heart. Like this shop pulls me up in the morning. I'm so tired, and I get up. I want to be here, and then obviously with my son here, we're always together. If he wasn't here, we would still be hanging out, but we're always hanging out. And he knows there's times I'm dragging my feet. Come on, Pops, come on. And I'm like, stay calm. If he was like, just stay home today, Dad. Come on, I think I will. He doesn't do that. He's like, come on, let's go. I'm like, and when we're here, the three of us, Kenneth, and then we have Loretta, and then again, it's nothing. The people that are here right now, Dave, Beto, he wouldn't be here if it was Chris. I mean, I get so much from you guys. I get more out of this. I've told you guys many times. I get so much more out of this than you guys do. So I'm starting to get that feeling like, oh my gosh, time's running out. Holy moly! Because I know Gutiar's, God knows how long I'll live, but God knows how long I can actually build. And I know my grandpa at 84, he was working 4 hours a day.
That was now, right?
But he didn't want to deal with anything. And I'm already getting to that point. I don't want to deal with the phone. I don't want to deal with cold walk-ins. I don't want to deal with I don't mind. I love talking about guitars, but I just want to come in and build, hang out a little bit, have a cigar, and go home. And have energy to go to dinner with my wife. She's been such a blessing. She knows that this is where I'm going to end up. My life will end hopefully right here. Yeah. So I'm looking forward to it. I'm all in. Let's go. No me rajo.
Man. So for the guitars, how do you feel about guitars? I know how you feel, but I don't think everybody out there who might be watching this really understands that, or some do, that feeling of this instrument. I would always find myself, if I was playing a mass or something with one of your guitars, I would just be sitting there looking at this. I must have looked like I was crazy, right? Because I would just sit, whatever guitar I had, whether it was your great uncle's guitar, your dad's guitar, that guitar over there, that Brazilian, I look at this, this is what? This is Indian.
That's Indian rosewood. Yeah. Flame maple binding, French polish.
You see, that's one thing that always gets me is like when I look at postings online, you can't always be 100% sure, but it'll always be, I can hear this thing vibrating as I'm speaking. So you guys can't experience that on the camera, but I'm touching the surface of the bag and it's like vibrating a little bit. Indian rosewood, Brazilian rosewood, everybody always jumps to, I want to sell it for the most, so I'm just going to say it's Brazilian. I'm going to say it's this, I'm going to say it's that, but it's very distinct when you're looking at stuff. And it's very easy to spot, but I can always just look at the guitar like a piece of art. Just looking at every single swirl, every and the light. I must look like a crazy person when I'm sitting there and master's like, ooh, look at that, that's pretty. It's like, how does that same feeling for you now at this point? What you can create from your mind, what your family's created for almost 100 years. Like how is that for you these days? Do you ever find yourself just in the bag just looking at stuff?
I still do. I've been like that since I was a kid. I have raw material that I'm almost happy if somebody doesn't order a guitar from it. I could just stare at it. It doesn't have to necessarily become an instrument. I have some Brazilian, some Indian. I see luthiers now making guitars with wood that we've been working with for 70 years, and now it's all over the globe, and I have it, and I'm happy just to look at that wood. Tomas has seen it, like, Dad, what's this wood? And so and I'll have them posted in different rooms, and I just look at it, and I don't have to build a guitar with it. I just look at it. And I've had other luthiers, hey, sell me some of that. No, and that was even before. When I was thinking about selling, I wanted to sell the, whole shop together because I wasn't gonna, I'm not gonna be here forever.
Yeah.
But now, not even close. Like now, Tomas gets to see it, and I'm like, yeah, look at this stuff. And then Cannon comes in, and Gabe, everybody, and I'm like, shit, look at this. Look at this tree. Look how it grew. Look at this. Look at that. You're gonna make a guitar with it? Who cares? Look, it's just like, it's right here. God made this wood. This is the Lord's work.
It's right there in front of us, right? That's what makes that guitar so special. Is that back and sides. The camera doesn't really do it justice. You have to see it in person. Just to sit, I'll sit there in my office if I have 5 minutes to play, and I'll just stare at that wood and think, just where do you even get that?
So builders know, violin builders, this is fiddleback maple, flame maple. So it's high quality violin type material. But when you said you wanted maple, I was like, oh, I had some of these sets. I have probably... I hired a guy about 10 years ago just to cut. I taught him, he knew nothing about guitars. I hired him just to teach him how to resaw some, not even an eighth of the blocks of maple that I have. And he cut, I had him cut somewhere around 1,800 sets. So I have 1,800 sets upstairs that have been baking in the heat. When it gets hot up here, the upstairs is hot.
Yeah.
It's they just have been drying. Some of it is straight maple, a little bit of curly maple. Some
that guitar with bird's eye you had here, the cedar.
Yeah.
Oh.
I have some gorgeous bird's eye maple, but I still have literally over 6 feet tall, and about 10 to 12 feet long board of maple, anywhere from 4/4 to 8/4, in super long lengths that are not even cut yet. They're just long. It's the tree, and you cut it, and that's it. It's not sheeted out for guitars yet. So I have maple, I have Indian, I have Brazilian, I have spruce, cedar, all that. And like if you were to order a guitar and you wanted it, I don't think I'll be doing that. I won't be doing that anytime soon. I'm just going to do guitars, but that I could make you a full guitar, an ukulele. And the cool thing is, when you cut that wood, if I know I'm going to get an ukulele out of it, when I cut the wood, some guys are buying sets for guitar, and then they make an ukulele out of it, so all the rest gets wasted. I can cut just pieces for ukulele or pieces for a guitar, and I maximize that material. I don't throw away a lot of material. Because that's the other thing. It's just sort of sad to, and I think it's cool too that I'm watching videos of guys showing. Kenneth is seen, and Tomas, of course, when people bring me wood, or I'll bring wood out, and I get my plantilla, my templates, and I'm like flipping them, and how we're gonna cut this and do this, and then we go to the back and we cut like a 3-4 inch score board. So that's 12/4 or 10/4 pieces of cedar, and I have to cut them by hand and then sheet them out and then do this and do that, and then we save the pieces for the headstock, that comes from the same piece of the sides and the back or whatever, and we're maximizing all of that material. So Tomas is getting it. It's sometimes I feel for him because it's like I don't stop. It's always something I'm complaining about. It's gotta be this, it's gotta be that. I get tired of hearing myself, but it's really my dad telling me. Guitar makers, when I screwed up when I first started, he's like, guitar makers like you, there's a bunch of them. I was like, oh, wow.
Ouch.
I was like, wow, it's like that, huh? He's like, yeah, if you're not gonna take pride in what you do, then why are you doing it? There's a bunch of you guys around. I'm like, all right.
Has he ever told you that? Not yet. Yeah.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, I did once. But But ever since then, it has not left my mind. And now I'm like, nope. If I didn't know it today and I know it tomorrow, then that's the new standard. And then if I know this, then tomorrow, that's the new standard. And it drives you to want to wake up and get to work. It makes you feel young.
Yeah.
Because I'm 55 and I'm like, I feel like I'm a kid still trying to learn something new. And I do all the other stuff. I got it, but I'm a kid. I want to get to that part again. Because I want to see if it makes a difference in the sound of the guitar.
Yeah. Because it's just millimeters that can change everything on an instrument. And some of the best instruments I've ever played, like this is. I mean, I can feel and hear it resonating as I'm speaking right next to it. Right.
Yeah.
This you were showing me earlier. This thing from the '50s has the same characteristic.
Well,
it vibrates just the
look
same.
at the finish. That's a stage 2 French polish. It's 70, 80 years old. This is stage 2 French polish. And so you've got the same type of finish, same type of material, same type of construction. There's just been improvements on it now, right? We have nickel frets. We have the machine heads are still quality. Those are nice machine heads.
These are from the '70s.
Sure. And so the numbers on that guitar they don't lean towards a concert guitar because you can't play the pieces that you want. The neck is narrower.
Yeah, it's harder to play. This full scale neck. I mean, this is like easy access. I always call it. Right, really easy to just get there. If I try doing that on that, my hands are gonna cramp up.
Yeah.
Really quickly, right?
Yeah, and I think just because we're here, ask Kenneth to sit down and play something and explain what he's gone through being here at the shop. Slide through.
You want to play the Irene? I know you like the Irene.
A little bit. I'll scoot over and let me see.
You'd probably be right in the shop next to the master.
Yeah, over there.
I'm gonna trade
Yeah. You like this one?
you. Okay, that's definitely buttery.
Straight French polish.
It's like anytime I'm trying out a guitar, and I've shown this to pretty much everyone at this point, it's just like you kind of almost want to go with what shade of color you like, right? You like a bright or a dark tone, because you can go down a hell of a rabbit hole. Start simple, right? Simple chord, and just listen to what colors you have already. If you compare that to another guitar that's darker, but you like brighter, listen to the bright guitars. And then if you have bright guitars that you're like, okay, well they all sound good, I like them, then you start looking at the individual notes that you can get out of them. You want to hear the A's, right? Because that's kind of the resonance frequency of the top, right? So. Listen to the E's.
It's all the way back here.
If you enjoy how that's coming out, then you've narrowed down kind of the instrument, right? Then you want to start simple pieces. You want to try that out, you know? So. And just to hear. If you go down and listen to a guitar for all of its qualities versus you kind of get up and you're just going, oh, what kind of like, you're rushing. It's like, it's like, you go to a nice restaurant and they took time. Yeah. You
Get to the rest of it later.
Yeah, right.
You go to a nice restaurant, they give you a plate of food, and people wolf it down like that, and you're like, savor it, right?
So you're playing that with that guitar.
Mhm.
What would you think about something that's very old? How would you evaluate something that's vintage?
You have to take it for what it is at the height of the building of the history of the maker, the quality of the wood. You have to appreciate it for what it is. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, if you take a Lamborghini, just the name, you're like, wow, that's a pretty impressive car, right?
Right.
If you get into a 1950s Lamborghini
Different.
and you're going, this is not what I expect. I'm like, well, because this is how they were made in the 1950s.
Right.
You have to look at it for what it is from the 1950s, how it fits into the history of it, and appreciate all the details, what it took to make this and this and this happen, right?
Yeah, and how they change over years. So this is one of the topics I want. And then there's another topic I know you want to talk about with mariachi guitars and stuff like that. Is how guitars change over time, how they finish. This is controversial because everybody always has an opinion like, well, this finish is better, this ages, that doesn't age, this is, it's another wormhole, right? It's a big topic, and I've played these guitars. We've all played these guitars, and they do change. An old guitar like this, if you can't get a custom guitar, finding something like this is your best worldly option. But you have to know what you're looking for, because you're going to get burned if you go out and buy something that you have no knowledge of, right? You're going to get something that either needs serious work. We were talking about you get underwater really quickly in an old guitar that has a name to it, but has lost all of its character. Or if you find something that's really close to what it was when it was made, now it's just 50 years older. You have a gem.
The thing you got to be heads up with is, so we have cars from the 20s and the 30s. We have vehicles from the 50s, 70s, 90s, and then we have today's modern all the way to the electric vehicles. Cars are getting more comfortable for you to sit in, but they're just not that much fun to drive. People don't really care about driving anymore, right?
Yeah.
Well, guitars are supposed to be played, cars are supposed to be driven. So there are modifications you can do on a 65 Impala to make it drive like a 1990s, but it's still a 65 Impala.
Yeah.
So when you have a vintage guitar, you have character. You have something unique, not something where 5 car manufacturers are all copying exactly the same thing. You have something that has its unique characters of tone and aesthetic and its own personality, but there are ways to modernize an instrument without taking away the tone. You add it.
That's what we did with this one originally.
Well, and those are things that have been evolving that I've learned. That Tomas I threw him the hard stuff early, and he picked it up quick. And I didn't realize how much more fun it's made it for him. Because now he sees a guitar, I know what to do to that to make it sound better. And I'm like, now
Yes.
it's like, yeah, because you just sit there pumped. You're like, oh my gosh, we can do this. This is worth fixing. So yeah, if you get I know some of the old race cars, the issues on the interior, the buttons, the knobs, they melt and they crack and they fall apart.
Yeah.
But you can box a frame and add different shocks to it, do this, do that, but it's still an original race car from the 50s or whatever, but now it drives so much nicer. Guitars are the same way. The problem is there's some luthiers that are practicing, as are collectors, and they find people to do stuff to guitars and they ruin them.
Yeah.
So I had somebody bring me an old flamenca, and they insisted on having the side replaced, and I said, I'm not doing it. Oh, but it's too thin, and the guitar's, I go, I'm not doing that. I don't need to pay the rent here. I don't need to charge you X amount of money to do certain work. Now, yeah, if it needs it, then we're going to do it.
Right. If you have an old Santos and half of the guitar is roached, okay, that's surgery. Time for surgery, right?
Yeah, and you did all this work, and you either did it because you needed the money, or the customer insisted on it. Well, the customer's not always right here. I've made that clear to people. You don't know what you're talking about. You need to leave. Yeah, you need to leave. And sure enough, he got angry. I finished what I did. He took it to another luthier. They even did a video of them tearing the guitar apart and putting new parts on it. And I'm like, why? I don't understand why you're doing that. It's not necessary. Preserve that guitar as original as you can.
And there's times where it becomes necessary. Almost. Very few times.
Yeah,
right?
when you don't have no choice, you don't have a choice.
Right.
So
we look at that guitar over there, that Brazilian. I can see now, I saw the little layers. I'm like, oh, that's what they did to this thing. Because when I had it, it wasn't there, right?
sure.
It was kind of as it was when I first bought it, and there were some things that were done to it, like there was a new ebony fretboard, it was gone, right? It was totally gone, didn't tune. But the finish was as it was. This is lacquered. Someone lacquered it. Didn't kill it, but they encapsulated it. Now, this is very, very good. So what they encapsulated was very, very good. But that's all it is now, right? And you see here where you scraped a little bit of the finish, and I'll show some pictures of this when I edit this video. You can see the layers. I didn't see that until I just looked at it.
I haven't touched this yet.
It's like there's layers there.
I haven't done it yet because like you said, something's been lost on it.
It's an enigma.
And
right?
I'm willing to work on it, but I'm like redoing what somebody did and charged you. And in a way I feel bad about it, but I also, it's that thing about what is it going to cost? And then for you, I'll do it, but for a lot of people, I don't want to do it anymore. I want to just build a new guitar.
Yeah.
Because
it takes the same amount of time to deal with that as it would be to just create a new instrument.
And what I tell people is, here's the thing which is really working in today's world. If you go to work wherever, you work at Home Depot, you work as an engineer, you work for Mercedes, you work wherever, you get paid for the week.
Yeah.
Well, if the boss comes in and says, I have a really good client that's coming in and he's been coming here for a long time and he needs his Mercedes worked on or his Chevy, whatever, old Impala, and he doesn't have a lot of money. And so this week you're going to work for 50% of what you get paid. Everyone's they're going to say, why?
Yeah, they bail.
Why? Because he doesn't have money? They're all going to quit and leave.
Yeah.
And that's why I'm like, in my case, it's not really just the cost of the time. Well, it is time. It's how much time do I have left
Do what you got to do.
to do what I really want to put out in this world. And I want to do, I will be working on this because my dad built it. You own it. I will be working on it. And, but some stuff I just don't want to do anymore. Right? You got to be careful.
So that's a big thing for a lot of viewers of my channel and friends. And they all ask, should I refinish this? Should I buy this? Should I take it here? Should I do those things? It's like, well, no, you need to talk to somebody like Tomas. Let him look at it, and he'll tell you what you definitely should not do to that instrument. And
Sure.
you got to take advice when you can take it. I've had so many people say, well, refinish the guitar. No, don't refinish the guitar. Why? Because you put some love marks in it? Keep the love marks, okay? Learn how to play better. I don't know what to tell you. I don't know what else to tell you. That'll get me in trouble, right?
Yeah.
But just learn how to do those things, and I will see down the line some people take that advice, and then a lot of people won't.
Well, you think about watches, and you know that I'm into watches.
Oh,
And
yeah.
I've been collecting watches.
The curse that keeps on giving. Yeah.
Yeah.
Taking.
And I don't go to my watchmaker and say, well, I don't want to do that, or I took it to this guy and said, just do this, and some guys out there will just chop up those watches and redo this, redo that, and then they lose their value,
Like the
right?
story, if you take an old vintage Rolex to Rolex, their view of the world is make it all brand new. And so they'll take away tens of thousands of dollars of value from an old, for people, if you have an old Rolex that's a really high value Rolex and you take it to a Rolex dealer, they'll take away all the stuff that makes it valuable, right? Like if you take a very valuable guitar and you strip it of all the finish, you take away all of its tone, you slap a bunch of crap on there and say, here you go, it looks pretty. You destroyed that.
Well, and that's what I'm getting at is you go to this guy that's maybe learned a little bit or runs a pawn shop, he knows how to tear a watch apart, put it back together, and he butchers it, right?
Oh yeah.
Well, but then you what I always say is you come here and I do that, and you come back 10 years later, you're gonna remind me of it. I'm gonna pay for it because that was a mistake. That's why I'm not doing that. And now there's another generation. Now we're on four generations. So of people coming in and trusting what we tell them.
Yeah.
So you can tell a little white lie, but in 10 years it's gonna come back to you.
You're going to be hearing about, like, your dad told me.
He told me
in 2006.
Yeah.
When you were nowhere near this.
As opposed to people coming in and go, man, I remember coming in, you told me, no, don't spend the money, save it, you know?
Yeah.
And I walked out of here like super excited because I didn't spend any money. Then I tell people that's going to be $3 million to fix it. And they get all mad. I'm like, well, too bad.
Don't do it.
And so I joke around in this sort of good way. I don't mean any disrespect, but I tell people, I don't care if you have money or you don't have money. It doesn't matter. We're here to service these instruments, do what's right, and then hopefully they live 100 to 200 years.
Yeah.
And you're the caretaker for this generation, and if you take care of it, you document it, and then when you pass on and move it on to the next person that's going to have it, your legacy is going to be that you took care of that instrument the proper way. There's proof of it. And like you said, there's going to be less and less of us out here.
Yeah.
We see stores closing down, shops closing down, a lot of people working out of their backyard, which you got to be careful with that.
Yeah.
Because they'll tell you what works for them, and they'll sell you a bill of goods, and then when they're out of their so-called business or their hobby,
Yeah, they're gone.
they're gone, and there's nobody to take it to. And that's when they bring it to me. Oh, I took this instrument to so-and-so, and he passed away. And
Yeah.
I go, yeah, he was doing this as a hobby for 5 years, 10 years.
It's happened to me. I've lost a guitar that way.
Yeah.
I had an old guitar, and the guy was working on it. He's gone, and all of his stuff, along with my guitar, got auctioned off in some garage somewhere before he died. Right? So it's just like, that's how you learn, though.
We had
unfortunately.
a famous video. We saw a video of somebody promoting all these old guitars and the character and the vintage and the tone and the sound and the history and this, which we all agree with. And then they got into mass producing guitar. Oh, the guitar doesn't matter what the sides and backs are made out of. It doesn't matter what this and that. And I'm like, listen to this. Listen to this.
And you put it out.
Yeah, and you put it out there. I'm like, yeah.
Upload and okay.
I'm like, yeah, keep going, you know. And it's like, the cool thing is yeah, you guys are in your 30s, but here 20s. We have people here in their 20s, people in their 60s, and we get it. Like, good is good, and that's not going to change. And somebody might come out with a fad with something new, but the old school stuff is still going to be strong.
Always going to be there.
And I see it more and more now with the young generation. They see some of these instruments and old handmade instruments, and you know, it's just amazing to be able to touch something that's alive.
They're untainted.
Yeah.
You know, this new generation is kind of like a reset button hit.
Good old
Massive.
COVID.
Yeah, COVID did a lot of damage, but it reset a few things.
Woke up a lot of people.
So they're the mariachi guitar. I don't want to take up your whole day,
Right.
but I know you want to talk about the mariachi guitar. Now, I've been playing mariachi since I was a kid. This is Brazilian rosewood? Yes. Yeah.
That was Indian.
Indian.
Huh?
Indian rosewood. Okay. This is, but most of my, we know the guys who I learned from, they all had guitars from you that were exactly like this. This was kind of like the badass standard for, Cobre, Sol de Mexico, all those
Camperos.
guys, Camperos, in massive. I mean, just concert. I mean, you could fill a stage with that.
Even 5 years ago when we had this conversation, classical guys, when I was trying to sell my classical guitars to the internet salespeople, Tomas, your guitars sound great, but the problem is, one, you make ukuleles and folk instruments, like mariachi instruments, and two, your instruments look too Mexican. That's what I was told. I obviously left that place very, very pissed off. But the thing is now those people are selling ukuleles and mariachi guitars.
Yeah.
And so I didn't bend. I didn't sell out. This is who I am. This is how it's going to keep going. And now these young kids are coming in from 15 to 30 years old. They know sound.
Yeah.
They want a mariachi guitar to sound like my concert guitars. And they understand the cost of building it, and they want it. And they want to go out and be at that level. And the cool thing is, now the classical world is respecting this. They don't say what they used to say anymore. And I appreciate you noticing, well, you knew it 22 years ago in Tucson.
It's been that long.
Well, and it's been since late 80s when I was going and showing mariachi guitars to try to get the mariachi to that level. And it was Javier Trujillo that always said, we need to set a standard. And I said, yeah. So that's why my guitar with the rings on it is called the standard. That's the model number.
Yeah.
But then there's the especial, the custom, and then so not only the mariachi guitar you see it as evolving. I've always been able to build that quality. What's evolved is the way people think and how they accept it now. Mm-hmm. And not only the mariachis, but the classical, the flamenco world, the orchestra world, are looking at mariachis and going, heads up, these guys are amazing.
Yeah. We could do symphony with them. We could
Oh, absolutely.
we could do all that.
Absolutely.
We can play Concierto de la West, with the mariachi group. The guitar player can actually play the strumming, right? The classical strumming.
El guitarrón, la vihuela, la guitarra, the violin. Come on. Look at these kids playing trumpet. It's all it's all there. It's just the mariachi chooses to play its style, but now you kids are playing everything. Hats off to Sol de Mexico, Jose, because he jumped into doing the Beach Boys and crossing over, and at the time, it was tough to accept it, to digest it, but it needed to be done. And now he can, or any mariachi that's accomplished, can walk into a room and say, what do you want to hear? And they start to play it. When they started, now they're doing the national anthem with the mariachi, and Americans, Mexican American, Asian American, African American, all these Americans that are born in the USA are listening to this and going, wow, that's legit.
Even abroad, when you have a mariachi group go to Europe, go to Japan, go something.
They love it.
Oh, they eat it up. They're like, how do you guys play and sing and you don't use music? And they're like, yeah, we spend our lifetime memorizing 30, 40, 50 hours worth of music just straight. It's like, it's a whole different world. And you're right, the respect is there, but for the guitar, that mariachi guitar, like, how is it looking forward? You know me, I always loved that guitar. That was my first Candelas guitar.
Okay, so
that was the big one for me.
Yeah, and I can feel your pain because I know when you had to part with it. And so the issue is that I have some young energy here because I know what it takes to build that instrument, and we're getting a waiting list for that already.
That's the number one thing I hear from people. How can I get a mariachi guitar?
Get on the waiting list.
You gotta get on the list.
Get on the waiting list, and I promise you we'll do it. Because today you can order a quesadilla or a concert guitar, you're still gonna have to wait. It is what it is. Yeah, everything's gonna go in order. And so, but we have a couple orders for mariachi guitars, and but right now I'm building in order. I have a couple classicals. I've got some Brazilian classicals that I have to build, and I'm just gonna keep going in order, and I'm gonna hit it hard until I can't do it anymore. But Tomas is helping me with a lot of it. But the mariachi guitars with the checkered binding, yeah, that I regret. I sold all of them. I should have kept one or two or three.
They're all gone. I bought one. There was one that was sold before me, and then they were all gone within a couple of years, right before COVID. I was like, shit, I could have bought more.
Apparently, one was hidden for years.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I brought it out.
And
Yeah. If you guys go behind my back and ask Tomas and Kenneth for a guitar, then yeah, these guys are not allowed to bring those out. Yeah, but I didn't keep any mariachi guitars, the original ones.
Yeah.
I made the mistake of selling them all, but we will. I think the next build we have, the next one or two builds, I think is a mariachi guitar. So I'm gonna hope that we'll build a couple and
post them online. You guys will get flooded. All I ever get are like, when's he gonna build one? I'm like, he's not building them right now, guys. I don't know.
well, I'm just building them for orders. So if you order one, I'm building two, one for you and one for the store.
So how does that? I remember you used to do that. I remember my first guitar you built me. It was a cedar, and then the exact same was spruce. I remember you did that. I remember I chose the cedar because I was 17. I didn't know any better. So because you were telling me buy the spruce one, I was like, no, I think I like the cedar better, and I want this one. And like, okay, take it. It was great, right? How does that work for you when you build two and you sell two? We've had this discussion for a long time. You can't. You know, what's the thought process there?
It's gonna be hard to collect anymore. It's gonna be hard to.
Excuse me, guys.
It's gonna be hard to collect now because of these guys here, Tommy and Tomas and Kenneth. It's hard to collect. So I don't necessarily need to collect anymore. I get it. So it's a blessing. It's a blessing to be able to build something and people buy it. By the way, the last Brazilians that I built,
Yeah.
it was one for a lady, and we had about 6 people waiting for. Okay. We had about 6 people waiting for the next ones.
Well, Tomas, I know it's getting late in the day. People are bailing. I want to say thank you so much for just going over my collection, some of your collection, looking at the guitars, having a conversation about them. It's just, I have pictures of all these labels. We talked about labels and what they mean to you guys, how they're personal to you. I'll post them in the video as well. And any last thoughts for people going forward after COVID, as the things continue to go? And what's your advice for people out there? Anything. I mean, you know me. You can give me plenty of advice, but those are for my kids and how to deal with my wife and her dealing with me. And my
It's her dealing with you.
Yeah.
Yeah, she's a gem. She's a gem. She's something else. But
for the young guys, when they're in their 20s, the 20s.
in regards to instruments,
yeah, how they can best navigate that world at this point. It's different than when I was 20.
just look. It isn't. It isn't. Ask your dad and your grandpa if they ever bought something of quality that they had to sacrifice to get, and how they cherish it, and enjoy it all those years, and then ask them about the ones that they didn't get, and how they regret it. It's every generation is exactly the same. It's exactly the same. So here we are, 2024, and he can ask me, and then when he has kids, they may ask me or ask him, and then your grandkids are gonna ask you. And so just ask them. And if you find that your relatives are like, we never cared about that, then that's okay. But if you have a relative that bought something that happens to be worth a lot now and they cherish it all these years, they will say, gosh, back in the day that was a lot of money. But I made the sacrifice and I did it, and I'm glad I did. And it's no different from some of the paintings I have. I collect paintings. I have some work here that at the time, even people were like, why are you buying that? I'm like, I love it, that's why, and I want it. And now it just happens to be worth
A little bit of scratch.
a little bit of scratch. And now now I don't need to sell it, but people are like, do you know what you have? I'm like, yeah, I knew what I had when I first saw it. You just know that it's worth a lot more now, but to me it was worth that when I first saw it. And it was only $100 to $200 to $300, but I knew that that's what I wanted. And so, in an instrument, begin with the end in mind. If you want to end up with a guitar like Jason Davenport or Luis Damian or Chuy Hernandez, well, get it now. Make the sacrifice. Buy less coffee. Buy less white tennis shoes, which are flooding the market right now. Buy whatever and make the sacrifice. And then before you know it, 10 years will go by and you'll be glad you did it. Yeah. And then 20 years will go by and you won't be able to afford it. It's just like a house. Yeah. If I wanted to buy that now, I couldn't afford it. Well, you better buy it at some point,
Yeah, you're not going to get it.
Or you're never going to have it.
Yeah. Sacrifice is a big one. Yeah, sacrifice is a big one.
Exactly. So
doing things the right way.
That's it. Beginning with the end in mind.
Tomas, thank you so much for your time. Folks on YouTube, if you're watching this and if the video is still going, I hope it is. Kenneth was watching the feed, so hopefully it's still working. But either way, I just love having a conversation.
I'm glad to.
This has been just fun, away from my kids, away from all the work and responsibility, and just hanging out with someone I've known for 20 years now, and his son. I'm so, as a new father, I get a little sentido because I look at my kid. He's just like me. I'm a daughter, just like me. Same. I play music. Same. They're drawn to it, right? And now I see how successful you've become, and as good as you're being, and as much as you know now, young, that he doesn't have to drill into you. He's already got it. You already got it. He just got to keep refining things and doing it on the right path. I'm so happy that this is continuing. And I know a lot of people out there, if you're watching this, they'll be happy to know that there's someone in the future they can look for. So you have a big responsibility on your hands, bro. Because, the future hopes and dreams of all the mariachis out there watching this are on you now.
Right?
I used to come here and stress out your dad. Now I'm going to stress you out.
Good. I'm ready for it. Whatever that stress that is, it can't compare to what my dad does. So,
There you go.
He gets on me pretty good. So
There you go.
Well, I appreciate it. Thank
you so much. And thanks everybody, and to my wife, and to our friends here. We'll see you guys in the next video.
Yeah.
My butt's asleep. If I try to stand up right now, I'll fall over.